All right, man, we're live. All right, welcome back
Wait.
to No Filter MMA, guys. We got a special 4th of July guest in here today. We are live with UK featherweight prospect Richard Mearns. Richard, I feel like I'm butchering your last name, man. How do you say your last
No,
name?
you said it good. Mearns. Yeah. It's
Okay, okay.
I think it's a Scottish name, but I'm not Scottish. I'm British. English, so
You're not Scottish. All right, all right. So what
yeah.
you got? What you got going on this week, man? This is a big week for you.
Oh yeah, man. It's been a crazy week. So start off fight week's always crazy because it's the issue of making weight. That
Right.
usually consumes me in fight week. The training's done. I've done my research. I'm ready to go. I'm usually ready to go like 2 weeks out from a fight. I'm prepared,
Right.
but
Right.
I know I've got to get the
So do
weight
you
off.
have?
Um, and there's sort of interest in what happened here, but weight is brilliant, well on target, and I was on target for featherweight, but this fight on Saturday night is going to be at lightweight now.
Okay. All right.
So I'll explain why that is. I was originally scheduled to fight my opponent, Bane Dundervan, his name was.
Okay.
And I found out on Friday that he pulled out due to, I think he tore a muscle in his shoulder. But either way, he wasn't well enough to fight. So this weekend was very stressful because I put in a lot of hard work, a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And I'm
Most
thinking,
definitely.
well, it's my time to shine now, and there's no opponent. So how can they find me an opponent within a week time? So we went through a few matchups trying to get something sorted, and then my new opponent eventually came through on Monday morning, this Monday, so not yesterday, day before. Um,
Wow.
so for that reason, it's now at lightweight. You can't. There isn't going to be many people going to make featherweight at short notice. But it's a good matchup. It's an even better matchup than the one before.
So
So my
so
new
you go
opponent
from
now.
you go from thinking that so you go from having to prepare to cut to 45. Now you're fighting at 55. So that's got to be some kind of a weight off your shoulders.
Oh,
Knowing that you don't have to cut all the way down to featherweight.
massively, massively. Because if you do the weight cut wrong, it's detrimental to your health. It's detrimental to your performance on the night. And
Hmm.
I was very confident about making featherweight though. I was well on target, but it doesn't matter how on target I am. The sweating out involved is so uncomfortable, and it's not healthy. But the sport is that competitive these days. If you don't do it,
Hmm.
you're not going to be in the top division. You know, you're not going to be able to fight them top guys. They're going to be too big.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
So tell us about. So tell us. Go ahead. Go ahead. My bad. I'm sorry, man.
When I found out the fight was at lightweight, I was like, okay, brilliant, healthy. I'll be incredibly healthy for the fight. Nothing changes, you know, apart from the opponent. I got more research to do. So, there's added stress and anxiety for them reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm.
So with the switch of opponent, with you already, I'm sure like the whole fight camp, you were getting your mind around this one certain opponent.
Yeah,
What did you do to prepare yourself for? What did you do to prepare yourself for a new opponent at a different weight class?
there is no preparation to be done really, because at this point it's too late to do any more training. So the way I see it is, I'm ready for the fight. When I'm ready for any fight, usually that means I'm in peak physical condition.
Right.
My mind's right. So really, I got to do some research, got more research to do. And all I need to see, I know roughly what I'm up against. I've watched a few videos,
Hmm.
but usually when I've got a few months build up to a fight, I've watched enough footage to break down their character, and I see holes in the game. I'm looking for ways to win. And also, like, not just like physically and what their techniques are. I try to look into a fighter's personality. That's getting to know them is a big advantage. And if I can sort of get a read on what kind of a fighter I'm dealing with, then it's all good. But with this guy, there's no opponent. He's tough. So we're just gonna. I'm just gonna go in. I've not got a game plan as of yet. But I don't think I'll need one. I'm well skilled ground, wrestling, striking, and I'm well calculated up here. So it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, yeah. So this fight is with contenders, right?
No, I've fought on the contender circuit before, but this one is on Fight Star Championships.
Okay.
Yeah. I was the former amateur champion on that show. I got the belt right here. Check out the bling.
Oh yeah.
See that?
Okay. Okay.
How shiny it is. Can you even see what I'm watching on TV there? Yeah. So I was the amateur champion on the show. So it feels really great to be fighting on there professionally now, maybe. But if I keep going with the success, I'll be fighting for the professional belt. We'll see.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So if I'm not mistaken, you went undefeated as an amateur, correct?
Not correct, but most people think so. I had quite a long boxing career before my MMA days, and then when I transitioned to MMA, I was just a pure striker through. So I lost my first 2 bouts on the ground. So my first MMA bout was really good, confident. Really battered this guy on the feet, and then I got taken down per round. I wasn't really doing too much offensive from my back, and when it hit the ground, it was quite boring. I didn't even take any damage. I left the fight with no marks on me, but I think he held me onto the ground. It was like a lay and pray sort of dude, but he held me down there too long for me to dominate the round. It was a split decision win for my opponent. So it could have gone either way, I think. I was clearly dominant on the feet. He was clearly dominant on the ground. My second fight, not a lot to say about that. It was an early armbar loss. And then after that, I just obsessed with my grappling. So much BJJ training, more wrestling. Got a great wrestling team at my gym. And then since I took a little bit of time from competing, and when I got back in there, there's no one has even tested me on the ground yet. And I'm sort of winning gold medals at the black belt standard in jiu-jitsu tournaments. Yeah, no-gi that is.
Okay.
So yeah, I feel like I've really ironed out my flaws.
So from you coming from a kickboxing background, how does it like, what is your thought process when you know you have to train to grapple when kickboxers don't really grapple? You know what I'm saying? So what is it like to have to train something so out of your element like that to evolve yourself as a fighter?
Well, I was really excited about it. So I mean, I played rugby for many years. There's some sort of elements of grappling there, but what really helped me was being a twin. Like me and my brother, I've just been fighting from day one, from birth. Like, you know how it is. You just got a brother and you play fine all the time. So when I started learning the grappling, I loved it. I really loved it. It felt so natural to me. It was like so organic for me to do it, and honestly, I picked it up quite easily, and then it didn't take me long before I was competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments. So yeah, honestly, these days I think I prefer the grappling element of MMA to the striking.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
You fight online, you wouldn't think so. But
yeah,
that's my plan.
Because I was gonna say, you come out when it's crazy that you say you prefer the grappling element, because looking at your fights, man, you come out guns blazing, swinging hard, man. You know, so that's weird that you say that, because you throw with a lot of power, especially at the beginning of the fight. You throw with a lot of power.
I'm confident on my feet, and I think that's why many of my fights don't go to ground, because I feel like it's not needed yet. If you look at Jose Aldo, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I've never seen him ground.
Right.
I feel like that's his plan B. For me, it's not my plan B. I feel like I'm still, I don't have a defined style yet, and I don't think I ever should. But I just play the fight. I play it how it goes, and if it's going well on the feet, it stays on the feet. And if he's going for takedowns, I'm usually stuffing takedowns, keeping him on the feet. He's usually trying to take me down, because he's under pressure with the striking. And I like to have a choice where the fight is taking place.
So you like to control the fight because you put a lot of pressure on a lot of forward pressure on your opponents.
Oh yeah.
In the Butterworth fight, it was constant forward pressure the whole time. Whether you got hit or not, you still came forward. So is that your style? Just kind of always keeping your opponent on their back foot.
Yeah, I'm usually very aggressive. I'm actually going to tone it down a little bit, I think, because that got me in trouble. One of my fights being over aggressive. You probably know which fight I'm talking about. But that's just a case of not being calculated enough and letting the fight play out. In all my amateurs, I was used to them shorter rounds because of my kickboxing, and I had great cardio. So I let it play out. I see what they gave to me, and I countered. So even though I'm pressuring forward a lot, usually I'm countering. If you look at Adam Butterworth fight, he's throwing a lot of head kicks, and as he throws a head kick, I'm straight underneath with a leg kick, and he probably hit the deck like 5 times in that fight before it finished. You look at the Adam Jones fight. His boxing was very good. But I knew it wasn't as dangerous as mine, so I let him come into my range and I let him feel my power.
Yeah, most definitely. So you had an extensive amateur record, and I interviewed another UK prospect, Scott Butters, as well, and he kind of touched on the differences between the rules of amateur and pro. Can you kind of give us another explanation of how you had to adjust to the rules, fighting so much as an amateur and then crossing over to professional? Tell us about that.
I think the most difficult thing about making the transition is the length of the round. So an amateur round is 3 minutes, and because of my kickboxing and that, I was so used to that. I know when the round's going to finish. I'm in there, and I know when the bell's roughly going to go off in my head, even if I don't hear the clackers. I know roughly when the bout's done. Whereas 5 minutes or so much longer. Where I train for 5 minutes all the time in the gym. All of my sparring rounds are 5 minutes, but I'm used to being so dominant every round. I mean, when I went on my 6-fight win streak, I didn't lose a single round.
Right.
But when it's 5 minutes, you've got to be even more calculated. You've got to play chess a little bit more. So first of all, that's the difference in 5 minutes. With other rules, is smaller gloves. You go from 7-ounce to 4-ounce gloves. So you just got to be a bit tighter with your guard. Better head movement. Don't get hit, basically. That's everyone's objective. And then, of course, you can elbow. Elbow to body, head. Knees usually are allowed to the head in amateur fights. Not all of them, but knees to the head are fine. So the only difference really is the glove size, the elbows, of course, heel hooks. In terms of grappling, with the jiu-jitsu, there's a few moves not legal in amateur, and that's heel hooks. That is also, I believe, a scissor takedown is not legal as amateur. Very dangerous takedown, that. And a twister, which is a spinal submission, that's illegal at amateur as well.
Really? Yeah, twisters are. Whew. I wouldn't want to be caught in a twister. So let me ask you this: you have an identical twin brother. Like when we first communicated with each other, I'm looking at your profile, and I'm just like, wait a minute, like there's 2 of these guys. So I mean, I was legit, and I know about twins. There's twins in America too, but. It was just like, okay, wait a minute. I see this guy, one guy doing this, one guy doing that. I didn't know what was going on. So with having an identical twin brother, tell me, are you guys more similar? Are you guys more different? Do you fight the same? Do you fight differently? Tell me, run that down for me.
We fight very different. If I was to describe it, I'd say my fights are definitely more chaos than Tom's, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. I think Tom is definitely the more calculated fighter of the two. He's been professional for longer, but I'd say it's because he's been training mixed martial arts as a hybrid system for about 4 years longer than I was, which is why I went professional earlier. I couldn't go professional because of my lack of grappling knowledge to begin with, but that's my third area now. So whilst I was kickboxing, I was fighting in full contact kickboxing and Muay Thai for like from the age of 18 to 21. Whilst I was doing that, Tom was doing his amateurs, his amateur MMA. Back then it wasn't as well blogged, so Tom's got a very big amateur record, very successful amateur prior to going professional. And then started his professional career with a 5-fight win streak. So yeah. I'd say Tom is more of a tactician than me. The grappling, I'd say I've caught up with him there, though.
And your brother fights at what weight class?
Same weight class as me, featherweight. Yeah.
All right. So
we never fight each other.
Say what?
I said we'd never fight each other, if that's what you're gonna ask.
Because that was my next question. Because this is why I was going to ask you that. You got in the UFC, in the flyweight division, you've got you've got Valentina Shevchenko. Now you have Antonina Shevchenko.
Oh, really?
In the same weight class. Yeah. So, and you and your brother fighting in the same weight class. Let's say both of you guys made it, as high as the UFC. I mean, what would that mean? Or is that just something more like you crossed that bridge once you got to it?
We'll cross the bridge once we got to it. I mean, if we were both contending for like world titles, me and Tom can fight at featherweight or lightweight. So we'd probably just make a decision. Maybe one would have to go up a weight class.
Right.
Of course, there are many different fighting organizations to be a part of, but UFC is the pinnacle for everyone. If I did, who would like to be there. Maybe if I speak to Dana White, they could introduce MMA tag team, and that's how we'll get around the issue.
Oh yeah. So, I've interviewed a couple of guys from the UK, and a lot of them say that it's still growing over there. Being a fighter in the MMA world is still growing over there. How does it feel? Being a pretty, because you have a pretty good following, you and your brother as well, because your brother's fought in Bellator, is that right?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
Yeah. Bellator was his last fight. I don't know. Did you see that fight? That was the Bellator 200 club.
So the one, is that with the injury?
Yes. Have you seen the injury?
Yes. I definitely saw that. I thought it was you at first, and I said no, that's his twin brother. So
yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. I mean, I can give you an update on that injury if you like.
Yes.
Actually, no. Yeah, it's important. But if you want to see a great fight, tune into his fight with Aiden Lee on Cage Warriors, which was 1 month prior to that bout. And the two of them, they just done themselves so proud. Aiden and Tom, they went for it, and it was a 5 minutes of constant pace, and I think Tom was pushing the pace. And Aiden's a very powerful guy, but there's a few kicks he threw in that bout, which he fractured Tom's arm with, which we assume that he fractured the arm there because the doctor said there was an old fracture on his elbow when we went to the hospital.
Yeah, okay.
And Tom felt not fazed by it at the time. After the fight, there was huge swelling on the arm, huge swelling. But we think, oh, well, of course, you've been in the fight. That's why it's going to be swollen. But of course, we didn't think it was fractured at the time. And being fighters, you just push through these things. Like, you get hurt, you're like, oh, well, it's because I'm fighting. It's obvious. So he then was already scheduled to fight in Bellator, and he pushed through another training camp. The arm bothered him just slightly, but he thought nothing of it. It looked all healed, all the swelling was down. And then he goes into that fight on Bellator with the old fracture and dominates round one. I mean, like dominates. I wish you
he
could see the
dominated, that's
fight.
for sure.
It could be published somewhere. I know it's on the Bellator app, but he dominated.
Yeah.
Early in round 2, he got hit with an Uchimata throw. He got hit with one. Tom gets back to his feet quite easily. He got hit with another, which was a bit silly. I thought, Tom, why are you getting the same technique executed on you twice? But anyway, as he posts his arm down, the arm just gave way, and it probably was due to that fracture. But he got the results back from the MRI today, and there are 2 ligaments that are detached from the bone. So it's gonna. The doctors said about 6 months not doing anything with that arm. But honestly, he's gonna make a good comeback. He's done it before.
Yeah.
Prior to going professional, he broke his leg. It was like a spiral break, so it was and he had a plate, 7 screws, and then that just put him back by 1 year. And then he come back a different animal. Went on a 5-fight win streak against tough talent.
Yeah.
So this arm dislocation is just a bump in the road, and he's gonna be back.
So he didn't break his elbow. He just dislocated it.
Dislocated it. Yeah. Two ligaments are detached.
That when I watched his fight and seen that it's coincidental that I'm interviewing you because I watched that fight live when it happened. I watched that fight live when it happened, and then that just so happened to be your brother. But that reminded me a lot of take your mind back to Strikeforce when Ronda Rousey submitted Miesha Tate and dislocated her elbow. That reminded me of that. It also reminded me of the Anderson Silva kick that we heard around the world.
I thought about that too, because they're quite resilient elbow. It reminded me of the Miesha Tate fight too, because I thought, well, she made a great comeback from that. And it goes to show that the elbow is quite a resilient joint in the body. We have to just take the physio very seriously now.
So do you and your brother train together, being such different styles of fighting?
Yes. Yep. He's my number 1 sparring partner, which I'll be without for like 6 months now. So that was a challenge for this fight camp, actually, not having my brother to do sparring rounds with, because he pushes me hard, like really pushes me, which is an advantage that I have over most fighters, having my twin brother. But of course, he's in the gym, but he's doing physio. He's not training martial arts with me. So yeah, I found for the last like 5 years we've been training together all the time, really. But our styles still remain different, and I think they will.
Yeah, that's kind of wild that you said that. That's crazy. Definitely looking forward to see your fight this Saturday. But I have a question for you. Is Bellator something that you could somewhere where you could definitely see yourself?
100%, yes.
Okay, all right. Because there's some stiff competition in Bellator, especially in those 2 divisions. You know, there's some very stiff competition there.
Yeah. I mean, stiff competition everywhere. Like even on the domestic scene in the UK, there is tough talent. So I'd rather fight that tough talent in the major leagues, get paid properly.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, I was just thinking, a really good matchup. Well, I know Scott is probably watching this, but Scott would be a good matchup. You two would make a very good matchup. That'd be interesting because, Scott's the grappler, and you have the striking. You come from a striking background, so that would be like that could turn out to be such a classic striker versus grappler matchup. So.
Yeah, I think that would be a good match.
Just kind of throwing that out there.
yeah. If people want to see that, I like Scott. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. He's a good guy. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this one. The UFC lightweight and featherweight division has a lot of buzz going on right now.
Oh, it's the best division.
So what do you think? Oh yeah, it's definitely the most. Besides, I'd say besides heavyweight, because heavyweight's kind of buzzing right now. These two divisions are definitely, the
Mm.
thing to talk about. So who do you have in the Ortega and Holloway fight, and how?
This one's interesting. I'm a big fan of
Very.
both, right? But what makes it interesting for me is that Holloway is the more experienced, I think, purely because I've seen him go through tough times in the cage.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to count Ortega out because Ortega, like, seems as though he's never even been challenged. Like he smashed my favorite fighter, Frankie Edgar, so easily. Thiago Tavares just immediately submitted him. He's taken out some of the best,
Yeah, he
just
has.
like with such ease, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, in a world title fight, if it really goes into the deep waters, we might see Max Holloway do better. But if someone's going to get the finish, it's Ortega for sure. I spoke to my brother about this, and he reckons Max Holloway on decision.
A decision.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and my brother's very good with these with his predictions. Like I'd say he gets them right like 90% of the time, but we'll see. We'll see. But it's an amazing fight. I can't wait for that one.
And people are saying, Holloway has the striking advantage over Ortega, which he does. He definitely does. But people can't forget Max Holloway is, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Max Holloway is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm pretty sure he is. So I mean, he that's what a champion's made of. A champion can go anywhere you put him. So if but the thing with Ortega is Ortega's jiu-jitsu, his jiu-jitsu is so slick and it's so technical that Holloway definitely has to be careful. But Ortega is not afraid to stand and trade with someone,
Yes.
right? I mean, he stood and traded with Frankie Edgar, So this is such a toss-up, man. I don't know which way to go. They're both so well-rounded. It's hard to pick one in this fight.
In the fight with Frankie Edgar, I think what Ortega really had going into the fight was the advantage of youth and the size advantage. Whereas I've said it many times, I think Frankie Edgar is perhaps the best fighter ever lived. I really believe it. He's a true tactician. I see what he does where he doesn't overcommit to his wrestling. He does the knee tap and then potentially come over with the overhand. If he feels his opponent has a strong base, then he'll go back to striking from the knee tap. If he feels that the base is off balance, he'll commit to the takedown. He's a true tactician, but I think Ortega's size was too much in that fight, and that's why he beat Edgar. But I mean, Ortega's super talented.
Yeah, he is.
I think Ortega also has a size advantage going into the Holloway fight.
Ooh. I think he does have. He's Holloway's on the thinner side. So I do believe that. I think Ortega will walk in to the cage heavier than Holloway, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. But Holloway, I mean, Holloway's been on a tear, man. I really wish that I could have seen Holloway versus Khabib, but he couldn't. He couldn't make the weight in time. But Holloway versus Khabib would have been. I think that's going to be like his next move. I believe if Holloway beats Ortega, he's going to go up and try to challenge Khabib. But speaking of Khabib, just some things out that saying that McGregor may be fighting Khabib later this year, or if that fight falls by the wayside, Tony Ferguson said he'll be ready. So what do you think about that trio? And plus you got to throw, like Eddie Alvarez. You got to throw those guys in there. So what do you think about that?
The fight I'd love to see more actually. I would love to see Tony Ferguson fight McGregor.
Yeah.
But for the reason being, I just don't. I don't know what would happen in that fight. And they're my favorite fights, where I have two amazing world-class athletes, and where I can't predict what's going to go on. They are the most exciting fights to watch. With the Khabib fight, you can pretty much predict what's going to go on there. But Connor's smart. He'll have a game plan. Like he's always got perhaps one of the best calculated game plans going into all of his fights. The odds are always in his favor, always. So I don't actually count Connor out in the Khabib fight.
So do you think Khabib would beat Conor, or do you think Conor takes Khabib?
I think Khabib would beat Conor, but I wouldn't be surprised if Conor did knock him out. But if I was to put my money on it, I'm going to say Khabib beats him in round 2 or 3.
Yeah, because people were speculating that a lot of these articles out here and a lot of other podcasts are saying well, Khabib hadn't fought world-class talent, but Khabib, and people are saying he's exposed. People know how he's going to beat you up. He's going to throw wild strikes. He's going to take you down. He's going to maul you to death. And yeah, people kind of know. Like I'm sure Edson Barboza knew that was going to happen to him. But the problem with Khabib is he's so strong, and even though people know that it's coming, they know it's coming. They know that the mauling is coming. They can't do anything about it.
That's what makes it so good. That's what makes it so amazing.
Right.
Like he does this one thing. Everyone knows he's going to do it. Everyone's training to not allow him to do that to them, but he still does it. And like he's doing it to the best in the world. Like if you stick to one style, that's why I've got a very varied style. Is striking, it's grappling, because people can find out my striking, and then if they got a game plan, I can switch to grappling. Khabib does the same thing every time, and it always works. And that makes me think that his wrestling, it's got to be the best that MMA has ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, man. I mean, Khabib he's tough. He's very tough. And Tony Ferguson, he brings a lot to that pool. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Tony Ferguson, he was the interim champ. I mean, he had all the rights in the world to brag, and he could call out anyone he wants to. I mean, Tony Ferguson is just that good. He had that gnarly injury to his ACL. I think it was his ACL, maybe. So I'm excited to see him come back. But I also want to get your prediction on Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. That's a huge fight. You all are going to be fighting on the same night, so I know you're not going to be. I don't know if the time difference allows you to watch that fight, but I mean, you're fighting Saturday, they're fighting Saturday. So tell me what do you think about that?
That one's really difficult. Just give me a moment to think about that. Because they're very similar. Like great wrestlers with heavy hands. I know that Stipe will have the size advantage, but I mean, with the Francis Ngannou fight, I knew Stipe was going to win. That was obvious because Stipe had more tools than Ngannou. Whereas I feel like the playing field against Stipe and what's his name? So I got a little mental. Yeah, sorry, Stipe and Cormier. The playing field's so even because they've got the full MMA spectrum. They can fight. They can with the hands or wrestling. I think DC's wrestling is more violent than Stipe's because he will pick a guy up and then launch him across the cage. But I'm going to make a prediction, and I'm going to say that Stipe wins on decision.
Okay. Man, that is, I'm trying to figure this thing out. Like, I've been watching footage on Stipe. I've been watching footage on DC, and I could see this fight going to a decision. And, people are banking on Stipe with the size advantage, but people must not forget that Daniel Cormier has everyone that he's fought, most of the people at heavyweight and light heavyweight, they have been bigger than him. Like the Alexander Gustafsson fight, Gustafsson could arguably be bigger than John Jones, and Volkan Ozdemir was a tall, lanky, long type fighter. And his, he fought Bigfoot Silva in Strikeforce. I mean, he fought the best of the best in heavyweight and light heavyweight. So I mean, he's used to the size difference and you know with his opponent. So it's kind of hard to pick that fight, because DC, if it stays on the feet, DC's definitely 100% comfortable on the feet, and
Yeah.
so is Stipe. So I think DC has a slight advantage in wrestling over Stipe, but Stipe's a big guy and he's underestimated a lot, and he's very smart. And I learned really how smart Stipe was from the Ngannou fight. I mean, that was the smartest. That was probably, to me, besides the Misha Tate Holly Holm fight, that was probably the most display of ring IQ that I think I've ever seen when it comes to a fight. Because if Stipe wasn't as smart of a fighter as he is, he would have got knocked out.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
He would have got knocked out.
Sure.
So
Once he was out of
probably,
round, he was pretty safe.
Yeah, he was pretty safe out of round one.
Yeah.
So I mean, so if you win this fight, man, just let everybody know what's next for you, man.
Just to keep competing. I've potentially got another matchup already in October.
Okay.
That's potential. Nothing's confirmed there. And I'm just going to keep an eye out for any local promotions that want to have me on. I want to stir up the scene right now because with my brother out, I'm going to cause a hell lot of commotion for him to come back to, and people are going to be invested in watching our fights.
And people will probably think, if one specific person fights you both, they're probably going to think, hey, these guys are the same. They're not the same. Just because they're twins, people, that does not mean they fight the same way. So you're getting two completely different fighters. One thing I wanted to point out, though, Richard, is when you guys, when you fight, you have your brother. Is your brother always in your corner? Are you in each other's corners?
Yes, always.
And how does it feel to have someone as closely bonded as a twin? Twins have a different bond than just your normal siblings. How does it feel to have that sense of security right there in your corner, pushing you and coaching you along throughout the actual fight?
With most of cornering Tom is usually I'm so confident he's going to win that I'm enjoying this fight so much as a spectator. Like it's what makes sports fun to watch is the drama, the anticipation of what's going to happen, and then when your brother's in there, you can't get any more emotionally invested than that. It's the best spectator view in the house, like when I'm calling my brother. There are a few times though, like where my heart is in my mouth and like I'm powerless to do anything whilst he's in there. It's all Tom, and it's quite scary, yeah, when you're cornering your brother. But he wants to do this, I want to do this, and I help him be the best. He'll help me be the best. Yeah.
So what do your parents think about? What do your parents think about both of their boys going in there and getting punched in the face?
My dad's very supportive, and so is my mum. I know it scares both of them, but they understand why we do this. Why we want to do this. We're just trying to live lives that are just above and beyond, like sort of normal. Trying to do the extra and like really live a special life here. I think my mum is absolutely terrified by it, though. Terrified, and she sometimes wishes that I maybe play badminton.
So do you guys plan on coming over to the States and fighting or doing some training or anything like that?
Yes, I've always wanted to come train in the States. There's a lot of superstars there that I'd love to meet. I, of course, want to fight in UFC and Bellator in the States. I want to be on the big promotions. I'd even fight on some more grassroots shows in the States, providing that they give me all the necessary facilities and enough time and good enough sort of funding to sort of not be fatigued from the flight and that. And you know, I would do the grassroots show there potentially, but if it's worth my while. But
Yeah.
my brother was in Vegas in November. He tried for the Ultimate Fighter.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it went very well for him. But he just didn't make the final cut.
Yeah. And just because, I mean, there's a lot of fighters who, you know, have not made the Ultimate Fighter, who have, you know, gone on to end up fighting in those bigger promotions. So, you know, and they always say, you know, just because you don't make the Ultimate Fighter, that doesn't mean you're not a good fighter. So,
Yeah.
I actually talked
They're
to, what was that?
With the Ultimate Fighter, they're looking for someone that's more marketable for TV.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I have no doubt. I have no doubt that I'll see you guys in those big leagues for sure. You know, your brother's already fought in Bellator, so I have no doubt that you'd be there as well. Especially with that style, man. That's a really good style of fighting. I like the forward pressure type fights. I also like a grappler as well. So, you know, the UFC and Bellator as well. You know, this new generation of fighters coming in are predominantly strikers, and it's good to see the level of, like, people like Brian Ortega. You know, it's good to see people elevate the level of jiu-jitsu and people show how important that it actually is still in this sport. And you know, most definitely, man, I'm excited to see what the future holds for you, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I got one last question for you, then I'm gonna let you go, man. Well, I got a question in the live chat. Someone says, "How does your wife or your significant other feel about you fighting?"
Yeah. My girlfriend is really supportive, and it's she just wants to see me become the best version of me that I'm trying to be. Like it's hard sometimes to be the most attentive boyfriend when I'm training. I'm in the gym all the time. When me and her are relaxing, I'm like, oh, I need to study my opponent. Oh, I need to go for a run. And she's never on my case about it. She's like, you do what you got to do. I'm behind you all the way. And honestly, she makes this whole thing so much easier for me. Yeah, so I'm very, very, very thankful. I've got a good supportive girlfriend.
I mean, it seems like the life. Speaking to, you know, at, talking to all these different fighters that I've talked to, man, it seems like the life of a fighter can be very hectic at times. It's especially, you know, weight cutting and training and fight camps and all that stuff. So I'm pretty sure it's very good to have somebody to keep you grounded, somebody that, you know, emotionally be there for you. So that's really good to hear, man. That's really good to hear.
And when the fights are done and time out of training, like, I think me and her, we appreciate the small things so much more than everyone else. Like if we go away together, if we got the weekend, we're just chilling, eating out. We appreciate them things so much more because I'm always training so much. So when we get them, I think it makes them memories even more special.
So what are you eating this week, man? You're cutting weight. What are you eating this week? What's your diet? How does your diet change the week of the fight?
The fight week, it is literally no carbohydrates whatsoever. So I make the weight by doing water loading technique. So for that 1 week, there is no salt in my diet, no carbohydrates. It is pretty much just protein and vegetables. And because the carbohydrates and the salt will make me retain water. And then the week, the day after the fight, it's hot chocolate, it's pizza, it's all them bad things that I've been missing. Oh wait, I already know what I'm having for dinner on Sunday.
So what are you gonna have, man? Tell everybody what you're gonna have.
There's a nice Italian restaurant near me which I've been wanting to go to for a while. So I'll probably get like arancini to start. The pizza is nice, thin crust pizza, and it's homemade in the pizza oven, and then like banoffee pie to finish. Yeah.
Hey man, well, let us know where your fight's going to be aired on, man, because I definitely want to choose. Are they televising the fight?
We're good. It's going to be streamed live on the internet, I think. So I'm in touch with you, and when I find out what the link is, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm definitely I'll be at work, but I'll be watching most definitely.
Thanks, man.
I can't miss that. But I just that's all I got for you, man. I just go ahead and give a shout out to your coaches, your gym, your sponsors, or anything you wanted to say. And I'm gonna let you get back to it, man, because I know this is a hectic week for you.
All right, thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I've really enjoyed this. I'd like to shout out first my girlfriend, of course, for all the support. My family as well. All my training partners at BST Academy in Northampton. So all the coaching staff there. That's Danny Batten. That's the head MMA coach. Raymond Poole, Lee Edwards, John Graham. And then, of course, I'd like to thank my sponsor, CBD Life UK. They provide me with good supplements, reduce the inflammation in my body, so that keeps me training harder. And I think that is it. And just shout out to anyone that's supporting me on this journey.
Yeah, guys, we once we interview you, man, we become fans of you. We follow you most definitely. I have some loyal subscribers on this channel, man. And next time we're gonna have to get guys. We're gonna have to reach out to Tom. We're gonna have to get Tom's point of view on some things, and then maybe we can have a mashup episode next time.
Oh,
and have Richard and Tom in there, and we'll make that thing happen. But
Tom
guys,
is an MMA mastermind, so it'll be a great podcast.
Yeah, it would be. We're gonna have to get Tom in there. But appreciate you coming in, man. Get that link to me. I'll share that link with everyone on our Facebook.
One more thing. Just want to say happy 4th of July celebrations to you and all the people back home where you are. Have a good day, man. Enjoy.
Yeah, we got some barbecues to get to, but we'll let Richard go, guys, and we'll catch you guys next time.
See ya. Much love.